Sitting is resumed. It's time for questions to the Minister for the Economy. I call David Honeyford.
The Department is developing a renewable electricity support scheme to incentivise investment, ensure a fair price for electricity produced locally and encourage diversification to support the security of supply. Following a recent consultation, officials have been working with consultants to define the optimal scheme structure. High-level design for the scheme will be published this month as part of the Department's response to the consultation. The next phase will involve modelling and a financial impact assessment alongside the establishment of a legislative pathway, state aid approval and institutional roles and responsibilities necessary for delivery. Stakeholder engagement will be essential as we move forward to deliver a final scheme design, maximising the community benefit opportunities and ensuring prosperity for all.
Mr Honeyford.
Thank you and welcome the response from the Minister. But given the makeup of our economy and mainly small and micro businesses, can the Minister ensure or confirm with us that the scheme will also include support for smaller scale projects from half a megawatt and not just from the 5 megawatt that's been previously said?
Minister. Yes, well, options for micro-generation support, including domestic renewable generation such as solar panels, will continue to be evaluated as part of our net zero ambitions. The Windsor Framework enables the extension of the VAT relief for energy-saving materials previously available in Britain only to the north. This means that people here will also be able to apply zero rates of VAT to the installation of energy-saving materials such as heat pumps and solar panels. Homeowners may wish to seek independent advice on solar panels, heat pumps and other energy efficiency matters from organisations such as the NI Energy Advice Service, and these technologies have the potential to provide an attractive payback to homeowners without grant support.
I call Mr McGuigan.
Can I ask the Minister maybe to outline how his department's proposed scheme differs from other renewable electricity schemes across these islands?
No, sir.
The proposed scheme will have similarities to the RESS scheme, RESS in the south, and the current contract for difference scheme in Britain. Similar auction-based schemes have also been successful across other European countries and are a well-established option for incentivising renewables. Previous research commissioned by the Department identified this type of scheme as the optimal form of support for the North, and in the recent consultation confirmed it as the preferred option of the power sector stakeholders. From this, a bespoke design local scheme is being developed. Any scheme we introduce will take account of the lessons learned from other schemes on these islands and address the specific needs of our own local market.
Matthew Till.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Minister, a previous iteration of the protocol, now the Windsor Framework, omitted guarantees of origin from the north being sold into the south and wider onto the single European, the electricity market in Europe. Will you explore with your officials getting that added into the protocol so that we can benefit from our access to the single European market?
Minister.
Well, I think there are some issues which have been addressed in my previous answer, which have been addressed by the Windsor Framework in relation to that. If there are outstanding issues as we move through the design of this scheme, then we're more than happy to take those up with the relevant authorities in London and Brussels.
Jim Allister.
I ask about another renewable scheme, namely the non-domestic RHI scheme. When can one expect the publication of the consultation report? And is there any hope of a realistic tariff for the users comparable to what exists elsewhere? Or are we going to continue the folly of sending back money which is being unspent in this scheme?
Minister.
Well, it is my intention. I do believe the RHI scheme should have been concluded some time back in the previous mandate. But it is my intention to bring that matter to a speedy conclusion as I can, in as fair a way possible as I can, and that will in turn allow us to access other funding that is available and hasn't as yet been taken up to look at other renewable schemes.
Neil McAllister. Minister.
Business improvement districts are the responsibility for the Department of Communities. As Economy Minister, my assessment is that they are an excellent example of collaboration and cooperation at a local level. Bids enable local businesses to take decisions about the issues that matter to them and about which they know best. They can be drivers for regeneration of our town and city centres, making our towns and cities more attractive for visitors and creating a positive trading environment that helps local business to thrive.
Ms McAllister.
Thank you, and thank the Minister for his answer thus far. And whilst I recognise that business improvement districts fall under the Department of Communities, would you agree that working hand in hand with the Department, in order for our local areas to thrive. That is very important, and thus would you agree that working further with the Department of Communities regarding the establishment of additional business improvement districts to add to our local economies?
Minister.
Well, I'm very happy to work across departmentally in relation to anything which I think can improve our economy. I previously had a strong working relationship with my colleague here, Deirdre Hargey, when she was Minister for Communities and I was in Finance, and I would equally hope to have a strong working relationship with Gordon Lyons now that he's taken up that post. One of the processes that I outlined in my own vision for the economy was about regional balance, and I believe where we have local actors in deciding what the local priorities are with the support of government, then you may get a much better outcome, a much better policy outcome in terms of what the local needs are. So if there is a case for more investment in business improvement districts, then I'm very happy to talk through the Minister for Communities around that. But I believe the more people we have active and working in the local area deciding the economic future and best policy for that specific area, then the better the outcome will be.
Orla Flynn.
Can the Minister provide an update on the High Street Task Force, please?
Minister.
The Task Force report delivering a 21st century High Street will be of interest to a number of departments. I have asked my own officials to take forward the recommendations relevant to my department. I understand that Executive Officer Ministers will shortly write to Executive colleagues inviting them to consider how they can take forward the findings of the report.
Justin McDonald.
Will the Minister join with me in commending the work of Newry Bid Eamon Connolly during the recent floods, who has literally got his sleeves rolled up and was carrying sandbags and doing immense work to protect local businesses and stand up for local businesses during that time of huge duress for them?
Minister.
Yes, certainly will, and he was very much at the forefront of that, as was the bid organisation in Newry. There were many others were out also helping at that time, local elected representatives, volunteers and very many other people, and it, I think, displayed the true spirit that there is in our areas and many other areas when these type of crises come along, then that people do pull together to try and provide support to each other. I hope that in the scheme that I have funded, being run through the Council, that the level of support required for businesses will be delivered quickly as possible.
Question
3, please.
Minister.
My assessment is that students already take on a significant level of debt in order to access higher education, and that adding to this debt is not the right approach. I am committed to working with the higher education sector to embed sustainable funding arrangements that enable the sector to thrive and create more opportunities for our students.
Mr. Beattie.
Thank you, Minister. That wasn't a challenge, and it certainly isn't a party's position of intent. But having spoken to the Vice-Chancellor of both Ulster University and Queen's University, who are really concerned about the number of student places here in Northern Ireland, we hemorrhage an awful lot of students overseas. Does the Minister have a plan to be able to increase those student numbers?
Minister.
Yes, and I have also spoken to both Vice-Chancellors at a number of occasions prior to taking up office and since I've taken up office, and I do agree that this is the funding of students and access of students to university, the numbers of students we have going to higher level education is something that we collectively need to work on. But we are operating in a very limited and constrained financial, public finances situation. I hope that improves as our negotiations with the Treasury develop, but I want to look at as imaginative ways as possible as we can to ensure the universities can have the resources they need, can take more students in to avail of the facilities that they develop, and we can do so in a way which doesn't place an additional burden on students themselves in order to access that.
Thank you, Cian Collier, and I thank the Minister for his answer so far. Will the Minister consider increasing maintenance support for students?
Minister.
Yes, I will. We are looking at ways to try and provide support to students. I've asked officials to identify options for that. However, as I said in the previous response, the ability to increase support is limited by the very difficult circumstances that we find ourselves in as a result of 10-12 years of austerity. But I would hope that the Executive can have a positive outcome in terms of its negotiations with the British Government in this matter, and that we do get more support to enable us to support students.
Thank you, Minister, for your answer so far. In my constituency in South Belfast, we have a lot of newcomer families, and we know that education is a gateway to prosperity for the family. I'm just wondering what support you can give to university to encourage more entrants from that section of the community. Thank you.
Minister.
Well, I think both universities have very good programmes, and some of them run very directly on the ground in South Belfast as well, to try and encourage more inclusion. And I would expect that those programmes will include people who have arrived in this country to try and access further and higher education as well. So there are inclusion programmes. Both universities are very proactive in that. If the member or others sense that there's a gap in terms of people who have come into the country needing support, and sometimes there is support needed in terms of translation and other services that are provided perhaps by different departments. But if there's a sense that there's a gap there, I'm very glad to hear, happy to hear of any issues that arise in that regard. I'm very happy to speak to universities about their programmes, but I do know that they are very proactive in this area.
Colin Killeen.
Question number 4.
Minister.
Assured Skills Academies are very effective in providing a successful pathway for individuals seeking a new career. Since 2011, 183 academies have been delivered, upskilling more than 2,900 individuals. All those trained were guaranteed a job interview, with over 2,500 gaining employment, a success rate of 86%. This has been a success for the local economy, with starting salaries totaling 55 million generated between 2011 and 2023. Academies address the skills needs of investment companies and existing local companies by ensuring a pipeline of potential skilled, job-ready employees. The Academy model is agile and is responsive to local economic and workforce needs, and will continue to adapt.
Mr. Killeen.
So you've partly answered the question I have in terms of local and large companies, but will you ensure that the Assured Skills Academies will continue to have your support in terms of, local opportunities, in conjunction with the potential opportunities that big companies and indeed FDI may bring?
Minister.
Yes, the member is correct. In the past, the Assured Skills model was primarily used for larger companies and FDI. Working with a single company meant it was easier to identify the number of vacancies and secure a guaranteed interview. But I've asked my officials to gear more academies towards SMEs throughout the North by getting multiple small companies to come together and collectively identify their needs. This has already started to happen. For example, in response to increased demand for skilled welders, more than 180 people, many with no previous experience, have completed welding training, with 150 hired by participating companies. In the current financial year, 3 collaborative Assured Skills welding academies have been launched for delivery by the South West College, providing employment opportunities in Dungannon, Cookstown and Maherfelt. And work is ongoing with the 6 further education colleges to identify suitable collaborative proposals to meet the skills need of smaller companies in all sectors.
Declan Kearney. Minister.
Growing social enterprise is a vital part of my economic vision. Social Enterprise NI, which delivers the Social Enterprise Work Programme, has a key role to play. As an initial measure, I have increased the budget for the programme. My department will now work with Social Enterprise NI to develop an ambitious action plan to further grow the sector and to take forward the recommendations from the Community Wealth Building Report commissioned by the former Communities Minister, Deirdre Hargey.
Mr. Kearney.
Minister, in developing policy and strategy around social enterprise, will you give greater consideration to stronger support for workers' buyouts?
Minister.
Yes, I have commissioned a piece of research on this. I am aware of this facility actually in my own constituency, where this has happened very successfully, and it's a process that is not often followed. That doesn't seem to be promoted very much, but yet the benefits in terms of securing employment and workers having control of their own employment is undoubtedly evident there in areas which have been successful. So I have been alerted to the fact that there is not a significant uptake in that, because there's a lack of information, and certainly in terms of the work that I'm doing here, we have commissioned research, and we will continue to make sure that that is available to more people to understand that that option may be available to them.
Question 6 has been withdrawn. Patsy McLone. Minister.
Ever shocked? Bronorm. There was a question withdrawn, so I'm skipping over. The cost of living crisis continues to have a significant impact on many sections of our society, including students at further education colleges. Student support officers based in every college help students access further education grants. The Hardship Fund, Care to Learn, Childcare and Educational Maintenance Allowance, home to college transport and free school meals are also available. This total supports about £10 million per year. In recognition of the current difficulties, additional support totaling £1.7 million has been provided to college. I have also asked for a review of student support within further education to ensure support measures are being targeted as well as possible on the basis of need.
Mr. Dunn.
Magadaira agus muíchas an méidsean na Taracha. Thank you for the amount of detail that you've given us. Your recent announcement, Minister, of financial support for students at universities didn't contain particularly any further financial support for FE students. Was there any particular reason why they were left out of that announcement?
Minister.
Well, as I say, we did announce 1.7 million additional in recent times for further education students. There is a recognition that costs attached to higher education are more significant for many students, but I want to ensure that there is a level of support available across all. If we had more money, we've certainly put more money into hardship funds to ensure people do that. Getting people opportunities to get back into work, to get education and skills is vital. The further education colleges are going to play a key role in relation to all of that. What we need to ensure is that we create pathways for people who are trying to access, on their own terms, many with other responsibilities in their lives, to access skills, education and an ability to get back into the workforce, because it's part of my own vision is about good jobs, better jobs for people, about regional balance, and these things will all contribute to that. So we will be intent on looking to do as much as we can in that area in the time ahead.
Deirdre Hargey.
Just to ask the Minister, thanks for the response. How many students benefit from existing financial support measures?
Sure.
Well, the Department funds, as I say, around 10 million per annum to provide a range of ongoing financial supports for further education students, including further education grants, the Hardship Fund, Care to Learn, home to college, free school meals, clothing allowance, educational maintenance allowance is also available for eligible students. And a further 4.5 million per annum is provided to the further education colleges to provide student support to students with disability. Within the 22-23 academic year, further education student support measures supported close to 13,000 students.
David Briggs. Mr. Speaker, question 8. Minister.
The Department is aware of the ongoing discussions between Boeing and Spirit Aerosystems about a potential acquisition. The Department is not aware of any immediate impact on its Northern Ireland operations, and it would be wrong to speculate on potential outcomes for Spirit locally as these discussions continue. My office is already engaging with Spirit to confirm a date for a meeting to discuss the current situation.
Mr. Briggs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his answer. I would just encourage the Minister and ask him to keep an eye on the situation and to continue to engage with Spirit. We know that speculation, as it may be, may lead to nervousness amongst the workers at what is a very key employer in East Belfast and Northern Ireland generally. So I'd just ask him to continue that engagement, as I know my party colleagues, Philip Breton, Gavin Robinson MP, have been engaging with them. Thank you. Minister.
Yes, I understand from the member's constituency perspective, but generally across Belfast there would be concern when there is an acquisition of what the future is for people who work there. So people are entitled to be concerned about their own future in relation to that. And obviously our intent is to try and ensure that support for as many workers as we can. But as I say, it is early days in those discussions. I did take the opportunity, was in the States, to mention to people about the potential takeover by Boeing, and then if there were issues that would arise from that we have access to discussions with senior people in America in order to protect jobs as best we possibly can going forward.
Peter McReynolds.
For his response, will the Minister confirm if he will commit to working closely with the Department for Business and Trade on this matter?
Mr.
We will work with whoever we have. As I say, this at the moment is a commercial discussion between two companies. What we would be concerned about are the implications for that in terms of the economy here, in terms of jobs, in terms of the presence of that manufacturing within Belfast. And so it's probably early days to decide who we need to speak to just yet, but when we do get a sense of what's shaping up and we have asked for a meeting, then if we have to go to London or if we need to go to America to talk to people about that there, then that's what we'll do in order to try and protect jobs and the economy.
Philip Brett. Minister.
Tax is one of several factors that companies consider when making investment decisions. However, the way in which Treasury proposed to deduct funding from the Executive's block grant at a time of public spending cuts meant that reducing corporation tax was not affordable. That will remain the case unless the British Government changes its approach to funding public services and to adjusting the block grant for devolved taxes. In the meantime, it is my intention to create an attractive investment proposition for firms by improving skills and ensuring that companies can take full advantage of the dual market access opportunities that exist through the Windsor framework.
Mr. Brett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Minister for his response. But could I ask the Minister if he could put on record, is it his position that there should be all-island harmonisation of corporation tax here?
Minister.
Yes, I think that should be our ambition, because I think that is beneficial in terms of the proposition that we sell internationally. But the case is that the way it has been presented to us from a Treasury back as far as 10 years ago, and I was involved in those discussions at that time, makes it unaffordable for us, and it was then, it probably even more so now. Now, if that situation changes, I think we can pursue this with some renewed opportunity, but as it sits currently, in terms of that approach, I don't think it is affordable for us. I think that view is broadly shared across the Executive, and I remember previous Minister for the Economy from your own party outlining the same view when she was asked about the potential of corporation tax being devolved and reduced.
Rogan.
Following his engagements with companies in the US last week, does the Minister believe that the North is an attractive place to invest?
Minister.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the visit was a very successful one in terms of our engagement. I spent some time in New York engaging with businesses there. I have to say that corporation tax was not significantly raised. I struggled to remember it being raised at all. The key issue for people was the people that we have working here, the skills, the dual access to both the British and European markets, the fact that we had an executive back in place, which meant people had a confidence that they could come and engage with us at the right level in order to make inquiries and make approaches in terms of their own business interests. So those are the key factors which are around, but there is a very significant level of interest. The dual market access has piqued a certain interest, not just in America, but also in Europe as well. And I think it's our duty in the time ahead to try and exploit that to the fullest possible way we can.
Tom Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the answers from the Minister. Just in a follow-up to Mr. Brett's question on harmonisation with the Republic of Ireland, if the circumstances were correct, would you actually support a lower corporation tax for Northern Ireland than ROI that would give businesses a huge advantage here compared to those in ROI and GB?
Minister.
Well, I don't actually believe that we need to be in competition. I think that's been the mindset here for too long, that we're competing. We have much more to benefit from collaboration. And I think it's an easier proposition if you have a single tax rate across the island in terms of our international investment. So I wouldn't be arguing for a race to the bottom on this. Corporation tax reduction is something which interests companies and can attract more investment, but it's not the single silver bullet. When I was in America last week, as I say, people were talking to me about the skills, our people, about dual access to the markets, about an executive being in place. Those are the key factors that they were interested in. So I don't believe that we should be in a competition basis. I think if Invest are working collaboratively with the IDA and Enterprise Ireland, we'll get a much better outcome than trying to compete with each other.
Dion Forsyth.
Your question 10, please.
Minister.
Ensuring that working parents have access to high-quality, affordable childcare is a priority for the Executive. We need a childcare solution which aligns with my own economic goals of good jobs, increased productivity and regional balance. And to this end, I am committed to working with the Minister for Education as he develops and implements the early years and childcare strategy.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister, for that, and I welcome the Minister's commitment to the childcare strategy. But I would ask further if he is willing to engage with the sector or provide any business intervention support as the number of nurseries closing down is rising. Employers for Childcare reported today about half of the childcare providers in Northern Ireland are reported as struggling or distressed in terms of a potential business rate relief or some sort of support. I was wondering, would the Minister consider meeting with them and discussing?
Minister.
Well, I thank the member for her question. I think I understand fully what she's saying. I've engaged over the last couple of years very strongly with the childcare sector, so I know the pressures that they're facing. Even in the solutions she has outlined, some of them go into the Department of Finance, some of them may be responsible for the Department of Economy. The lead is the Department of Education, and I think that underlines the sensible proposal that has been agreed with the Executive. We all have an input into this, and we try and do it as quickly as we possibly can, because one department heading off with its solution and another department heading off with a different solution is not what the childcare sector need. We need them involved in the design of a strategy that will support not just childcare providers and those who work in the childcare sector, but also support parents who are trying to access it. And in terms of my own particular interest, the more people we have available to come back to work and allowed to get back into the workforce, then the better for the economy overall. So I do think it is a multi-departmental approach, and we all have a part to bring to the solution, and that I'm very willing to do that in terms of the Department of Economy.
Cathy Mason.
In addition to assisting the Education Minister, are there any steps that the Minister can take within his own department to improve childcare provision?
Minister.
Well, I think part of the solution is actually what firms, particularly firms which are well established and in good economic shape, what they can bring to that. I also think, and we've had this discussion with business, I also think that employers themselves need to consider how they allow particularly women to re-access work. Because if it's an all or nothing, only a full-time job offer, and people have to make sometimes, which is a very difficult decision in terms of leaving childcare responsibilities to go back full-time to work. So we have had this conversation with employers, and I think we need to continue that dialogue, that they have a responsibility both in terms of childcare provision for staff who they're very keen to get and to hold on to, but also in terms of allowing particularly women back into the workforce, that there need to be more options than simply a full-time occupation on offer to them.
Carl Hunter.
Mr Speaker, Minister, we know the childcare sector is an absolute crisis and it needs support now, and we had warm words last month about this, but what steps or immediate actions has your department taken since last month to support this sector?
Mr.
Some which I've just outlined is dialogue with people in the private sector to ensure that they play a part in this. The private sector tell us all the time that they can't get the people that they need. They need more people. They need more people with skills. So they have a contribution to make to ensuring that people can access either education skills or directly into work. And if the childcare is a significant issue and all of that, the affordability of childcare means that many people who have that responsibility can't leave that and go back into work because it's a detriment to their own family. In terms of the resources available to them. So we've already begun discussion and dialogue with people in that regard, and we will continue to work at pace with the other departments around the executive table to make sure that we bring forward a bespoke childcare strategy to suit the particular needs of here.
Aye, Harvey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Question 11.
Minister.
Raising productivity is one of my 4 economic objectives. This will require action on a wide range of policies such as trade investment and including making the most of the dual market access, skills, leadership and management of business, investment and innovation, entrepreneurship and a policy for high potential sectors and businesses. I will bring forward actions across all of these areas. I will liaise with the expert critical friends I have asked to advise on my economic vision on these actions to ensure that these will have the impact that is needed.
Mr Harvey.
And thank you, Minister, for your response. Minister, further to last week's US visit, could you maybe give us an update on the Department's efforts to attract more US investment?
Minister.
Well, there's an element which is about attracting inward investment here, but there's also an element that we're involved in out there of allowing our own firms to be involved in exports in the States, and quite a lot of them are doing that now, a growing number. And in that regard, the economic advisor, Joe Kennedy, has been very helpful in making sure the firms that go over get access to the people that they want to talk to. So it's a two-way street. It's not going over with a begging bowl to ask for inward investment. But of course, a strong part of the trip when I was out there last week was about talking to people out there. It was also about having people who are already doing business here, because the biggest selling point for people doing inward investment is the fact that 70% of the companies who come here stay and further invest here. And what we allowed at one of the events last week, I think, which was probably the most powerful one, was for people who had actually done that to give their testimony rather than us selling, and they did a terrific job at that, talking about their experience of working here, the people here, the ethos here, and how that was beneficial to them and their companies. So we will continue to do that, but as I say, it's a two-way. We want to create opportunities for local companies here to be able to export to the States and abroad, and to take full advantage of that dual market access that we have.
Thank you. That brings to an end our time for questions. Could I commend the Minister and the members in getting to question number 11, a good interactive exchange. We now move to topicals, and I call Sinead McLaughlin.
Minister, I know you will be keenly aware of the challenges facing further education lecturers and their ask for pay parity with teaching staff. Do you agree with the principle of pay parity for further education lecturers and school teaching staff?
Minister.
Yes, I had an opportunity to meet the trade unions in the first week that I was in office, and I told them I shared their ambition to get further education lecturers onto that trajectory where they were linked to teaching pay. What we're trying to do with the amount of money available now is trying to get a settlement for this year to try and give people some support and agree together to set that trajectory for future years in terms of aligning that with teachers' pay. So that's my clear objective. I know that they're currently considering that offer. I hope that they do take it up. But nonetheless, regardless of what happens in terms of this year, my objective for further years, I've made it very clear to the unions that represent the further education lecturers.
Ms McLaughlin.
Minister, and I'm pleased to hear that that's the direction of travel, but you can appreciate that the lecturers are absolutely livid at the minute at the differentiation between for teaching staff and their colleges. They're actually teaching people that are being paid more than them in those higher level apprenticeship programme. Is there anything that you can do now to step in and support that sector as they struggle with this pay parity?
Minister.
I fully understand their frustration with how things have developed over the years, and I've seen people in my own local college out on the picket lines over many years. I think it's a very legitimate demand that they have. What we're trying to do is to get, in terms of the envelope that's available to us, is to try and get an award made to them, which will improve circumstances this year, but then work very closely with them to get them on the right trajectory for future years. So that's all is affordable to us this year, because we got an uplift in terms of public pay, which was defined by the British government, and the finance minister has tried to stretch that as far as she can, but that gives us a set amount with which to play. So I fully understand. I think it's a very supportable argument that they've made in terms of where they should be. And I share that view that I want to get them into that place. What I would like to do is trying to get a settlement this year and then continue to work in that direction.
Well, Tom Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm wondering if the Minister has met yet with the management of BT and EE regarding the potential of closure of the Enniskillen site later this year, and if he has directly met them personally.
Minister.
Well, I haven't directly met him, but officials have met with him. My special advisor has met with him. He's aware that I have written to them. They have also engaged with the trade unions representing people there, and I understand the concern that there is in the Enniskillen Fermanagh area in relation to potential of job losses. BT are in an international downsizing exercise, and there is a serious concern, because it's not simply the loss of the job, potential loss of jobs in Fermanagh, but it's also the impact that has on regional balance as well. So we want to see jobs retained in local areas. So we're awaiting the outcome of consultations, I think, which were to close on, as a result of our own intervention. The date for that was pushed back 2 weeks to allow further discussions. I think that is due to close on the 28th, and we will be happy to engage with them and see what the recommendations that flow from that are. And as I say, we recognise very clearly, and that was in the tone that I wrote to BT to advise them that this was a very, very bad idea, and that this very much cut across the strategy we have of trying to support more jobs in regional areas.
Australia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the Minister for that position that he's taken. Just like to ask if he has had any feedback as to regards what might happen after the current consultation is over, because that's one of the big uncertainties for the staff. What will happen after the current consultation?
Minister.
No, I don't as yet. As I said, they did extend, following our intervention, the day after I wrote to them, they extended the consultation process by a further 2 weeks. That's due to end next week, I think on the 28th. And we have no insight in before that as to what decisions may be, or propositions may be put on the table in relation to that. But we will keep a very close eye on it, and we're determined to try and support the people from Enniskillen as far as we can. Bearing in mind BT is a private company, but nonetheless we are determined to support the people who work in that facility down there as best we can, and provide as much encouragement to BT and EE to keep the jobs that they have there.
Melissa McHugh.
Concordia, I note just your comment that it wasn't a begging bowl and that it's a two-way street, so that in respect that in relation to your visit to America, could you give us an update just on the engagements that you had whilst in America?
Minister.
Well, we had a number of engagements in New York, which primarily were business focused. Before we went down to Washington for the events down there. Some of that were with businesses from here who are out there. First Derivatives we met, but others were with businesses who potentially may be considering investing here. And some of that is commercially sensitive, so we had private discussions, but the objective in that was firstly to promote the idea of people investing here, to give greater certainty and information in relation to the executive being back and what that meant, but also in terms of dual market access and what that would mean for them. And those were the key areas of interest for them. I also met tour operators who bring people to Ireland from America as part of a Tourism Ireland event that I attended in New York as well, and had very useful dialogue with them in terms of the issues they face. And of course ETA is a concern for them, as well as they raised a number of issues, but a very, very positive mood there in terms of the executive being back up, in terms of the dual market access issues being brought to a significant degree of certainty, and the potential for people getting involved not only in doing business in the States but also bringing business from there to here.
McHugh.
In fact, again, too, in terms of that dual market access, I think that we can all but appreciate how critical it is in order to expand all our business communications we have, not only in America but in other places as well. So in terms of our trading relationship, how important and vital is that, and that it's dealt with in such a way whereby it's creating an environment that allows business to take place?
Minister.
Well, what I find is most businesses want is certainty, as much certainty as they can get in terms of investment decisions. And of course the United States has been a very critical trading partner and also inward investment partner for us here. And so I think, I know there's a debate has been ongoing this morning in the Assembly in relation to these matters, but I think anything which undoes the degree of certainty that there now is, I think does a disservice to our ability to grow the economy here and to attract investment and to grow our own exports into other markets as well. So, part of the attraction of the offering from here was that people had more degree of certainty about what dual access looks like and what it would mean for their businesses. If we have an ongoing dialogue and attempt to thwart the progress that we've made, then I think that only does a disservice and only creates more uncertainty, and that's not the type of atmosphere that businesses want to be engaged in.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister agree with me that it is inappropriate to continue with the voluntary redundancy scheme of further education staff and potential campus closures before the review of the further education delivery model is completed?
Minister.
Well, I'm taking her up on the same question that Sinead McLaughlin asked in relation to pay matters. Is that? I beg your pardon, I didn't catch the first part of it.
No, Minister, it's to do with the potential redundancy scheme in principle and potential campus closures in review of the FE delivery model not being fully completed yet.
In terms of the redundancy process, what we asked, it was already started. Expressions of interest had gone out to staff. There had been a significant number of returns, I think many more than the places that they were looking to remove by redundancy. We ensured that one college had also considered the option of compulsory redundancies, that was taken off the table, and it was only voluntary redundancies that had a regional spread, and it was only for courses that were no longer required, or that were very poor uptake in courses, that it wasn't from key positions within the further education structures. So in a process which is already a very significant way down the tracks, which in my opinion couldn't be halted at that stage, then we tried to make sure that it wasn't doing any further damage to the provision, and also that what money may be saved from that, it's my intention to reinvest into the further education system.
I thank the Minister for his response. I suppose the real substantive point is that the review of the FE delivery model has stopped and started over the years, and what does his department intend to do in terms of bringing that to a conclusion?
Minister.
Yes, there's no doubt there have been difficulties there. My clear view is, and I think the FE sector, FE colleges are underutilised. We need to find ways to get more people into them. That means making courses more accessible, trying to get more resource into them as well, ensuring that staff are properly paid for the work that they do, and they have a career progression which is comparable to other people who teach as well. So there is work to be done there, and we will engage with the colleges themselves and with the representative body to try and make sure that we're working collaboratively in all of this. There's also work to be done between the higher education and the further education sector and the education sector. So I see that work, and I've already had conversations with the Education Minister in relation that we need to make sure that there's a seamless join up, so that pathways for people going through our education sector run right through the entire three sectors involved in that.
Deborah Erskine.
Thank you, and I thank the Minister for his answers so far. It is in relation to BT as well, and I would like to question just in a different way. I would actually say the extension has actually created further uncertainty for the workers, and that's obviously very detrimental to their own lives. But in a recent response to me, you said that Invest NI are continuing to engage with BT. What does that engagement look like, and is that looking at different properties that BT can go to within Enniskillen?
Minister.
We're trying to understand what the rationale would be behind a change in Enniskillen and what that might involve. So, I know 2 weeks extension maybe creates more uncertainty, but it also might buy some more time for the company to come at this in a more supportive way for the staff that are there. If the issue is property issue, then we're very happy to work with BT to identify what property may suit their needs down there. So whatever is presented to us as some of the issues that's causing them a reconsideration of their operation in Enniskillen, then we are happy to work with them in that regard. We haven't got the full sense of that back yet, but Invest and I remain ready to engage them and have engaged with them. We've also engaged with the unions there as well to try and get an understanding of what might be the issues at the back of any potential decision to take and to how best to try and offset that.
Ms. Erskine.
Thank you. There is conflicting information that comes out in relation to BT constantly, and as I say, that is at a detriment to the employees, and we are seeing in Enniskillen that some jobs are being re-advertised already, and again that creates confusion, and I would just urge the Minister to ensure that he can do everything in his power to keep these jobs in Enniskillen, because it is the Communications Workers Union has found that it's 9 million to our economy in Fermanagh that these jobs create.
Minister.
I would hope that the company is as clear as possible and that we don't add to uncertainty and undoubtedly stress of people who are waiting to hear what the outcome of this review is. So I will be asking my officials to make sure the company is as clear as possible and they don't end up adding unduly to people's stress. But yes, our primary objective is to retain the jobs there, to try, and if there are particular issues that BT are identifying, to try and work with them to resolve those issues. But we are in the stage where it's obviously a global issue that they're dealing with in terms of restructuring, and we're in a situation where we're reminding them of our particular commitment to jobs in the regions here, west of the Bann in particular, and that what they would, if they were considering something which was detrimental to that, then they would be going against our entire economic policy. So yes, we will have those conversations and we continue to have them in the days ahead.
In the Dill.
Can I ask the Minister, given the recommendations that have come out in relation to credit unions today, whether you will take up those recommendations and bring them forward?
Sure. So very happy to speak today at the event involving the credit unions up in the Long Gallery, and they've played a very vital role in terms of provision of financial support for families and for small businesses for 65 years now, a key cornerstone of that local level financial support for people. And yes, they have identified issues in terms of their manifesto that they want to work with us on, and we have committed to putting together a group to deal with them and to try and bring those recommendations forward.
If members take the reins, we'll just change the top desk for Commission questions. Thank you.